Hey everyone, it is Monday, January 3rd. The time right now is 4:20 p.m. and the temperatures are rather cold, -7 degrees Celsius. And I'm here in the Yonge and Eglinton neighborhood, and this is Duplex Avenue. And that's a look to the west. And now I'm walking east on Orchard View Boulevard. And that is Yonge Street straight ahead. So I'll just be taking a walk around this Midtown Toronto neighborhood. I originally had some more ambitious plans for today's video, but it's been a bit of a somber day. We've got some bad news on a few different fronts. So I do apologize if this isn't the most upbeat of videos that I've recorded. There's a look at the Toronto Public Library. That's where I cast my vote in the federal election this past summer. And just on the south side of the street is 33 Orchard View Boulevard, and that's a large apartment that is connected to this apartment just to the south of it on Duplex Avenue. And they're both attached to the Yonge Eglinton Center. And unfortunately this morning I got a message from Ken from the Ken Continuum YouTube channel that one of our fellow Toronto-based YouTubers, Rolling with Ian, has passed away. Apparently he passed over the Christmas holidays. And I had the pleasure of meeting him a few times. And I think he popped into a few of my live streams. I've always enjoyed his presence and found his take on the city to be quite interesting. Just waiting for the light to change so I can cross to the south side, but rest in peace, Ian. You will be missed. And I don't really have any further details than that, but it's certainly sad news. And I know a lot of viewers of my channel were familiar with him and his videos. And he was a hardworking guy. He had almost 200 videos posted on his channel. And maybe I'll cross over to the other side of Yonge here. I think the light cycle is about to change again. And that's a look southbound Yonge. And there's the Yonge Eglinton Center just on the right. And this here is Roehampton, which as of last year is now a one-way street heading east. And just to the north of it is Broadway, which has been converted into a one-way street traveling in the opposite direction. And there's the Duke of Kent. So I think I'll just head south down to Eglinton, and then maybe I'll walk east for a bit. And the other bad news we got today was the province had a press conference, and they announced as of midnight tomorrow, or Wednesday morning, we are moving into what they're calling a modified step 2. So that entails another round of somewhat heavy restrictions. And it's certainly hard to believe that it's come to this. So hearing that news along with learning what happened to Ian has kind of taken the wind out of my sails a bit today. And here's the intersection of Yonge and Eglinton. So what these new restrictions entail is that bars and restaurants will be closed to indoor dining once again on very little notice. So that's a huge blow to restaurant owners and of course their employees. They did say there would be some benefits in place to help support them, but if it's anything like last time, it won't be nearly enough. And there's an A&W. And let me see if I can pull up a list of all the changes taking place. So it says only outdoor dining, drive-through and delivery will be permitted. Social gatherings are limited to 5 people indoors and 10 outdoors. Retail stores and personal care services are limited to 50% capacity, which I guess is a bit of good news, because at least they're not shutting down the salons this time, at least for now. Saunas, steam rooms, and oxygen bars are to be shut. Kind of bizarrely, capacity at weddings, funerals, and religious services is limited to 50%. So we're only allowed indoor gatherings of 5 people unless you call it a wedding. And here's Kinton Ramen, and they have a sign in the door that says takeout only. So they have already gotten with the program. And all employees who can work remotely must work remotely. That I think is a pretty reasonable measure. I'll still be out wandering around the city with a camera in hand. And gyms and other recreational facilities must be closed. And that is a huge blow to the general health and well-being of a lot of people. Speaking of which, there's a Good Life Fitness right there. And there's another fitness center. Exceptions have been made for professional athletes, as well as those training for the Olympics. And what else is here? Indoor meeting and event spaces are to be closed with limited exceptions. And not too long ago, the province promised that schools would be the last thing to close and the first thing to open in the event that more restrictions were introduced. But guess what? They will be closed for at least 2 weeks. which is a big reverse of course from their position just 3 days ago. And one reporter asked the premier what changed, and he proceeded to provide zero concrete numbers or reasons other than just general cases. So yes, it's very much a case of deja vu all over again. And funnily enough, their primary reason for all these changes were to protect the hospital system, but there was no investment in healthcare or related services announced. And I think we've actually seen our ICU capacity dwindle by something like 30% over the course of the pandemic. Hey, here's a positive sign. The old Golden Griddle and Scruffy Murphy's location has something going on in the window. Right, let's cross over to the south side of Eglinton here. I think one of the real kickers is for those of us in Ontario, we have endured some of the longest and strictest measures in the entire world. And we're really no better or worse off for it. In fact, it was pretty cool to see the city start to come back to life on New Year's Eve. And I think the financial support for a lot of service employees will be to the tune of $300 a month for those that would have otherwise qualified for EI if it weren't for all the hours they lost last year, EI being unemployment insurance. So you really get the feeling that instead of making adjustments and trying to live with what is obviously an endemic situation, we're just taking the Groundhog Day approach here in Ontario. I personally wouldn't have a huge issue with this if there were sufficient support in place to just ensure that no business has to permanently close their doors due to government restrictions, and that no person ever loses their home or their livelihood, but no such protections have been put in place. So here's Mount Pleasant Road, so I'll turn south here. And I know a few parents who are pretty livid over the situation, including one who's a medical doctor. So what is the answer? I don't know, but I know it's probably not this. I think it also kind of sends out mixed messaging on vaccination. We were encouraged to get them, which I did. I got them as soon as I could, and I have an appointment for my booster on Wednesday. And we're Hey, here's a Shoppers Drug Mart that's closed. I did not... No, this was closing down. That is surprising. But we were promised a somewhat normal life and protection from severe illness, which we do have. And yet we're still being cast out to sea without a lifeboat. Anyways, I'm not an expert on these things, but just as a regular citizen, these are my thoughts. So I guess tomorrow I'll go out and do one more pre-lockdown video and maybe a live stream. I was going to stream tonight, but just given what's been happening today, I wasn't really that into it. Oh, here's Shoppers. So they moved. That makes more sense. They must have moved into a bigger space or had a more preferable lease. That's a retail chain that has benefited tremendously from the pandemic. And that's also part of it. It always seems as if the winners from this, not that there should be any winners, are those that were already wealthy to begin with. What is all the honking about? There's a psychic reader. Mount Pleasant Village. I think there's also a feeling that the goalposts will be continually moving and this is never going to end. We've also seen elective surgeries cut at hospitals. There's tremendous collateral damage there, and I think I saw that the hospitals were at something like half capacity. And our ICU cases were at like 160 on December 1st, and today they're 240. But I think even without Omicron, that was pretty much the expected trajectory anyways, given that we're now in the thick of winter. They don't tell us what percentage of those cases are what variant. And the snow is all the remnants of yesterday morning and the night before snowfall. There's the old Regent here. So I think the last few times I've walked around these parts, I've taken Davisville Avenue across, and I've also taken the Beltline Trail across. So maybe on this one I'll head down to Merton, which is kind of an interesting street, and I'll take that over to Yonge and Davisville. Turning right from the left lane. Classic Toronto move right there. There's June Rollins Park. So coming up is Davisville Avenue, but I'll be going another block to the south of there. And then I'll just be walking west over to Davisville Station, and I think that'll be that. June Rollins is a former mayor of the city of Toronto. There is the 11 Bayview. So that came down Bayview Avenue, and now it's heading across Davisville. I recorded a ride on that bus before. Well, probably not that specific bus, but you get the idea, that bus number. I put that one up on my second channel. Speaking of which, I added 31 videos to the playlist on the 24/7 live stream on that channel. So there's some quote-unquote fresh content there. And I'll be continuing to update that and remove videos so they don't get overplayed. And we'll see how that evolves over time. And I said Merton was 1 block to the south, but it's actually 2 blocks. As this here is Balliol. And you could continue south on Mount Pleasant here, all the way into downtown. It ends just south of Bloor Street. Actually goes right underneath Bloor. And here we are at Merton Street. Just south of here is the Mount Pleasant Cemetery and the Beltline Trail. And again, I apologize for the less than upbeat tone of this one. I think there might be a few more like this coming up pretty soon. It is amazing to see how the pendulum of public support for the restrictions has swung. This time last year, taking a position against them would have seen you kind of outcast by the mainstream. I've always found this to be a rather interesting street. There's a mix of retail and commercial buildings. And various apartments. And this place, Chacho's, I think is a fairly highly regarded Mexican restaurant. I remember coming here a long time ago. And here's the Red Lantern Pub. And I think coming up is the headquarters for Girl Guides of Canada. And there's some very expensive units in this building. I remember looking that up for a walk I did, I think about a year and a half ago on Merton Street. This area definitely feels a bit sleepier than Yonge and Eglinton, despite being just to the south and being relatively close to a major subway station. I think there's an older demographic at Yonge and Davisville. And a lot of the apartment building stock, which actually, I don't know why I'm looking south, it's more to the north of here, is also a bit lower in rent than Yonge and Eglinton. I often suggest checking that out to people that want to move into the city and not pay a ransom for rent. Speaking of which, landlords are allowed to go ahead with their regularly scheduled rent increases this year. You'd think there'd at least be a temporary hold on that. There's a 15-story building plan for this lot. And there is a lot of salt on the sidewalk. I'm sure you're just hearing a constant crunching. I say that right as it clears up. And what time is it right now? It is 4:54, so the days are definitely getting lighter. A few weeks ago it would have been very dark at this time. I remember when that place opened up, Tiny Explorers Academy. That would have been about 6 years ago. So I don't think they'll be opening their doors in a few days. Imagine being a parent and you've overextended yourself paying for daycare, and now that daycare is no longer available and you gotta find a new place for your kids. I personally think it'll be kind of fascinating to see how this generation of kids going through school turns out relative to previous and hopefully post generations, given that they're spending so much time doing remote learning. And it's not like this is well thought out, pre-planned remote learning. I think a lot of teachers and schools are just scrambling at the moment, much like they did last year. And we are almost at Yonge Street. So I'm just going to go north a few blocks and pop into the subway system, which ironically will probably be quite busy and crowded. But apparently that's not a problem according to our province. It's those pesky restaurants that are the problem. Certainly couldn't be the jam-packed transit vehicles or shopping malls or big box retailers. Nope. this is Yonge Street. We'll take a look to the south. There's the K. Gardner Beltline Trail crossing Yonge. And you know what? I think for today and tomorrow, I'm gonna have to do some dining in. I was just thinking about my dinner plans and ordering a pizza. And it's like, what are you doing? Let's go give some support. There's Finn McCool's and a Sotheby's. And here's one of the few remaining Mr. Subs you can find. Before Subway came to Canada, those were pretty much everywhere. Call me crazy, but I actually like it a bit better than Subway. All right, I'm gonna put my gloves away, get out my mask. Let's look at the CN Tower off in the distance. And the next street to the west of here is Duplex Avenue, which is where I started this one off. Let me fish out my transit card, which I loaded the pass on yesterday, later than I should have. So I ended up paying for my first few fares without realizing it, 2022. Note to self, I should keep my balance at 0. That way, when my transit pass expires, I won't be able to tap onto the subway and it'll remind me to pay. And this is where the headquarters of the TTC are located. And here we go. Here comes a train. And on that note, thank you for watching. Again, sorry for the less than fun tone on this one. Let me know your thoughts and comments down below if you wish to support the channel. There's links to Patreon and YouTube channel membership in the description. There's also a link to my merch and PayPal. All right, thanks for watching, and I will
Line 1, Fort Finch.
catch you on the next one.
Stand clear of the doors. Next station is Eglinton Station.